Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of Monday Night Raw for January 27th, 2020. This is the post Royal Rumble edition of the No DQ live recap. Thank you to everyone watching, whether it's on demand or watching live. I appreciate your viewership and support. We have a $5 super chat from Matt Phillips Reviews. So before I get to Raw, he wanted to ask me about the Royal Rumble. He said, is there an official ruling on if you can be in a non-title match and be in the Rumble on the same card? It seems to be allowed for certain talent. There is no official ruling. Basically, guys can declare themselves for the Rumble, whether they have a match or not. With Roman Reigns, he actually did declare himself before the match with Baron Corbin was even announced. So it wasn't in Roman's best interest to fight Corbin. He was already in the Royal Rumble, but he wanted to do the one-on-one match. So in that case, Reigns was already part of the Rumble. But yeah, we've seen it plenty of times over the years where guys just end up in a random match and then later on they're in the Rumble, and then other guys have a random match and are not in the Rumble. Just depends on what WWE wants to do and what they're trying to accomplish with their storylines. Got a $2 super chat here from Jake Lake Carpenter. He says, how great is Edge? Edge is great, and I will talk about Edge. I loved the ending segment of this week's Raw. About an hour before that, I was starting to feel pretty worn out from Raw. Let's go ahead and break down Monday Night Raw and get going with this recap because it is pretty late. Raw did go over a little bit past the top of the hour. Let's start off with the beginning. We had a recap of the men's Royal Rumble with Drew McIntyre eliminating Brock Lesnar and picking up the victory. We had the intro, the pyro, and I should note that we had a change with the Raw commentary team this week, which apparently is going to be a permanent change. It is now Tom Phillips replacing Vic Joseph. Jerry Lawler's still there, and now we are back to the three-man team. Byron Saxton is back. Whatever. I prefer the two-man teams personally, but WWE has this obsession with three-person teams, and it was nice while it lasted. We had a good couple of weeks where it was just two guys. We had Drew McIntyre come out to kick off the show. He pointed at the sign because it's WrestleMania season, which means it's sign-pointing season. Crowd chanted, "You deserve it," of course, as they tend to do for these types of scenarios. And Drew McIntyre said he's convinced he's been dreaming. He got to the point, he said he's not going to keep people guessing. He is challenging Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship, and he is going to win the title. He wanted to have an official Claymore party on Monday Night Raw. He asked who has the balls to come out and fight him. This led to Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows of the OC coming out to accept the challenge. Both of them actually accepted the challenge, and Drew McIntyre was like, well, fine, let's do a handicap match. It was a 2-on-1 match, Drew McIntyre versus Anderson and Gallows, and it was basically a squash. Anderson and Gallows lost in about 3 or 4 minutes to Drew McIntyre. He hit them both with the Claymore and then pinned both of them at the same time. So this was pretty brutal for the OC. They got decimated by Drew McIntyre. So is it just WWE really elevating Drew McIntyre, or is WWE burying the OC? Depends on your own perspective and how you see it. And Psycho Jet Black with a $5 super chat. Psycho Jet Black, you are jumping ahead a little bit, so I will get to your comment here shortly. I promise you. Stay tuned. Let me go ahead and add this into my notes, your super chat. By the way, guys, if you do leave a super chat, please try to stay on topic so that way I'm not going all over the place. Tony H with the $2 super chat, and since I just brought this up, I'll go ahead and read it off here. He said, Graves, Saxton, and Phillips should be the trio, not Jerry Lawler. I'm just not a big fan of Byron Saxton, but I do agree that Jerry Lawler really is way past his prime and should not be there anymore. He's made a ton of mistakes, and he's just not a good fit for Monday Night Raw in 2020. You need a youth movement. As great as Jim Ross is, one could argue the same thing with him, but I still think JR brings something to the table. Lawler, I feel, brings nothing. I feel like his jokes, they're very played out, very outdated. And I'm a huge Jerry Lawler fan, but I think he's not a good match for Raw at this stage of the game. You got to bring in some fresh blood. And Cindy agrees with me. So thank you for that, Cindy. Let's move on here to the post-match with Drew McIntyre. He celebrated, and then Brock Lesnar showed up, gave Drew the F5 to send a message, and that was Brock Lesnar's appearance. Might be the last time we see him for a while. We had footage shown from WrestleMania 17, the TLC match with Edge, and throughout the show, WWE would have different clips shown of Edge's accomplishments, building up to this final segment of Raw where Edge would come out and address the WWE Universe. We had Rey Mysterio taking on MVP. That's right, MVP. Do not look at your calendar. It is, in fact, 2020. MVP coming out. There was a little video package for him. Of course, MVP appeared at the Royal Rumble, coming out on Monday Night Raw for his first official match on Raw since, I believe, October of 2010. Crowd chanted, "You still got it." Match was okay, but MVP, the guy looked a little sluggish, and they totally botched the finish. So Rey Mysterio went for the 619, and for some reason MVP started to get up and move away from the ropes. So Rey really did not get much of the 619. I think maybe kicked him in the back just barely. And then Rey Mysterio hit the big splash for the win. Unfortunately, I feel like this might be it for MVP. I don't know if WWE is going to use him again after this, which is too bad. I thought it was cool to see him again, but wasn't MVP's best match, I'll just say that. Kayfabe Candy Ass in the chat says this match felt like 2009, meaning it sucked. And Ma Wrestling says Morrison, Edge, MVP, Old Sheamus, and Bryan hairstyles feels like 2010. Gabe with a $2 super chat says, really off topic, but nice Elvis shirt. Well, thank you for that, Gabe. I appreciate it. Although some people will be like, Elvis, that's not Elvis Presley. What are you talking about? We had Alistair Black picking up a quick victory in a squash match. And then Alistair Black afterwards cut a promo, said he holds himself accountable for his loss at the Royal Rumble, not picking up the victory. He said that he made the mistake of waiting for people to pick a fight with him. And he said starting tonight on Raw, things are going to change and he's going to bring the fight to the locker room. And then, of course, we did not see any follow-up to this. Nothing from Alistair Black. No picking any fights with anybody. I guess we'll be seeing that next week. eSpins123 with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, if both feet have to touch the floor to be counted out in the Royal Rumble, then what's the point of all the spots where they can hop on one foot back into the ring? The idea behind that is just to make the Rumble more entertaining. You know, Kofi Kingston getting thrown over and only one foot touches, so he does the thing where he's hopping. It's just done for entertainment purposes, and it's creative. The stuff that Kofi's done over the years and John Morrison and whatnot. It's just done for entertainment. We had Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy come out for their tag team title match against Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens. Rollins cut a promo before the match, told Drew McIntyre to enjoy his popularity now while it lasts, because eventually the fans are going to stab him right in the back. He then gloated about eliminating Joe and KO. Owens and Joe came out, cut a promo. Owens said Rollins has been acting like an absolute jackass and he sucks now. Joe said he wants to know why all of a sudden Rollins is brave and wants to fight. Owens and Joe were speculating that maybe AOP were hiding under the ring and this was a big ambush. But Rollins was like, no. AOP, they're backstage in the locker room, and he proved it by showing footage of them and having them actually say something to Owens and Joe. But this was also a trick by Owens and Joe because they sensed that this was going to happen, and they had the Viking Raiders go back there now that they knew the location of AOP, and they beat the crap out of AOP. We had the tag team match, and unfortunately, something happened here. Samoa Joe went for a dive on Buddy Murphy, and he took a pretty nasty fall. He did the suicide dive and pretty much planted himself on the ground, and he was taken out of the match by the medical people, and it was 2-on-1. This was apparently not a storyline, not part of the match, so they had to improvise after the commercial break. Kevin Owens hit a stunner to Seth Rollins, and then Buddy Murphy immediately rolled up Owens to pick up the victory. Hopefully Samoa Joe is okay, because it would really suck for him if he's hurt again. He just came back from an injury a couple weeks ago, and now he's possibly going to be out of action again. I really hope he's okay, because it's another bad break for Joe. He's had a lot of injuries in WWE, and I just feel terrible for the guy because he's such a great talent. Jake Lee Carpenter with a $2 super chat says, I hope Drew does not turn into a happy, smiley face. Well, that very well could be the case here with Drew McIntyre. You know, he's doing the 1, 2, 3. So he's really starting to pander to the fans now, and I know a lot of people feel Drew would be better off as a heel, but I think this whole babyface run is designed to take him to the next level. So again, like I said last night, I'm going to let this thing play out and see what they do with Drew. And hopefully Drew becomes a major superstar and he becomes the top guy in WWE. And it's not a scenario like Nakamura where they put him in the title match and then he loses and then he just kind of fizzles out. Mike D with a $2 super chat says, there's been a bunch of botches and injuries lately. Yeah, well, these things tend to happen, especially when guys go a mile a minute, you know. It definitely can increase the chances of injury, and all the time on the road definitely doesn't help. OG Crusher says, Drew has way more star potential than Nakamura. Fair point. Drew is a great promo. Nakamura, not such a great promo when it comes to speaking in English. And you could say Drew is more marketable to a U.S. audience. So I got what you're saying there. And Psycho Jet Black with the $2 super chat says, what is wrong with pandering to the crowd? Nothing really, but I think sometimes it can be overdone, and you look at what happened with The Miz when it just becomes cheesy and it's just painful and cringy what he's doing. As long as it's not so obvious what McIntyre's doing. You know, when Stone Cold started doing it, it got ridiculous. Like, the thing about Austin was that when he turned face, he really did not pander to the crowd all that much, but eventually he started doing it and it watered him down a little bit. So I think if it's not so obvious what's happening, then, you know, every once in a while you can do more subtle things to make references to the crowd and to play to the audience and that sort of thing. JSpin401 says pandering to the crowd feels forced sometime. Exactly. It should not feel forced. You got to be more subtle with it and let it come organically. We had Becky Lynch interviewed, and this was an interesting promo. I'm not sure if I'm the only one that felt this way, but I kind of sensed maybe this was planting the seeds for a heel turn. Let me know what you guys think in the chat room. She talked about how she's really in a league above everybody else, over all the other dopes in the locker room. She's beaten them all, and the next arse she beats is going to be the one she wants to, not one that she needs to beat. And then she said if Charlotte challenges her, it isn't going to be the first match they have, but it will be the last match they have. And Jake Blake Carpenter says he felt that way also about Becky's promo. And then she showed her new jacket, which is the GOAT. Again, feels a little bit cocky and arrogant demeanor for her to have the GOAT jacket. You know, she's bragging about how great she is. So I don't know if this is even going to work, if this is what WWE's trying to do, if they're going to try to turn Becky. We saw how well that worked the last time, but that's the thing in WWE. Turning somebody heel is the new way to get them to be cheered. That's the whole new era of WWE. Just like with the New Day. People were booing them, you turn them face, people love them. You turn the Usos heel, people start loving them. William Warrington with $2 says, Becky is getting boring. Well, I agree that I feel like something needs to happen. Like she needs to lose the title. She needs somebody who's a legit threat. Now, Asuka, they did a pretty good job with Asuka, but now what? Who's next, as Goldberg might say? Darren Frazier with a $5 super chat says, the heel turn, if true, could work so long as Charlotte isn't facing her. Very good point there. I will talk about Charlotte here in a minute, but you could make Becky the most diabolical heel. I don't think people will boo her over Charlotte because there's still that big portion of the crowd that really resents Charlotte and they just don't like her and they don't like her push and all that stuff. All right, so now let's talk about Andrade. Andrade faced Humberto Carrillo again. They've had a bunch of matches now. They wrestled at the Royal Rumble. Andrade beat him clean, and they're having a rematch. Why is Humberto getting another match with Andrade? No good storyline reason, but apparently there was a good real-life reason for this match to happen and the angle that took place here. So let's talk about what happened and then what happened behind the scenes. So Humberto was on the verge of winning the title. Zelina Vega broke up the pinfall attempt, causing a disqualification. After the match, Humberto snapped. He beat the crap out of Andrade. He exposed the floor and did the same thing to Andrade that Andrade did to him around the Christmas break. Humberto gave Andrade his own hammerlock DDT finisher onto the concrete floor. And there was a reason for this. When I saw this, I thought, okay, yeah, this is interesting. They're giving Humberto a little bit of an edge. This is some good writing by WWE. But as it turns out, they pretty much had to come up with something here on the fly. So what happened was, according to Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet, Andrade has been suspended by WWE for 30 days due to a wellness policy violation. And this news was just breaking as Raw was coming to an end. So Andrade has been suspended. We don't know what the substance was. WWE doesn't disclose that information. So they just did the angle on Raw to write Andrade off of television for the time being. I guess he's going to stay champion for now. They could have taken the title off of him, but they chose not to. Maybe they will do an angle where, because he cannot compete, he's going to be stripped of the title. They may end up doing that. At Psycho Jet Black, he sent the $5 super chat about Andrade. Why did Humberto not win the title? Good question. Maybe WWE doesn't have enough confidence in Humberto, and maybe they're going to do a tournament. Maybe they'll strip Andrade and do a fatal four-way for the title, or maybe they're just going to let Andrade sit out and come back as champion. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with it, but the only reason I could think is they just don't have the confidence in Humberto to put the title on him. And what is my favorite Drew McIntyre match? Probably the Royal Rumble now. I would think that was the biggest match of Drew's career. So gotta be that one at this point. But honestly, before that, I can't really remember. Like, I can't pick a certain match and say, that was my all-time favorite Drew McIntyre match. It was the Rumble. But before that, I don't know, guys. I don't know. Ma Wrestling says Drew versus Roman on Raw in 2018 was very good. I don't remember it. I mean, I'll take your word for it, but I don't remember that match. Michael Wayne says Kofi versus Drew. Again, don't remember it. OG Crushes says my favorite match of his before the Rumble was him versus Almas at the first War Games. Marshall Leonard says, what is your favorite Kevin Owens match? Well, putting me on the spot here. Probably the match with John Cena for the U.S. title, where Kevin Owens won the title. I mean, all those matches, Owens and Cena had a great rivalry. Also, Owens and Ambrose had a couple good matches. The Royal Rumble with Owens and I believe it was the Royal Rumble, Owens and Ambrose. Whenever they had their match, I think it was the Rumble. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that one was pretty good. And, of course, all the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn matches I've always enjoyed. But, guys, we're going off topic here, so let's get back on track. Charlotte came out. She pointed to the sign because it is, in fact, WrestleMania season. She said that she's still thinking about her opponent. She doesn't know who she's going to face. She was acting very heelish. She showed the footage from the Rumble highlights. And then Asuka and Kairi Sane came out. Asuka said that if she was in the Royal Rumble match, she would have won it. And then Charlotte said, was that a challenge? And Asuka responded by taking out Charlotte. Her and Kairi double teamed her. So the answer was yes, it was a challenge. We had a very lengthy match between these two, which ended with a DQ. You guys know how I feel about this. I intensely dislike long TV matches that end in a DQ. If you're going to do a DQ finish, make the match 3 minutes. Don't make us get invested in a long match and then you just do a DQ. And on top of that, they did the same exact thing twice. They did a DQ with the person on the outside interfering at the last second, 2 matches in a row. They did it with the Andrade Humberto match, and then they did it again here. Charlotte got the figure 8 on, and then Kairi Sane did the insane elbow, causing the DQ. Charlotte managed to fight both of them off because, well, she's the Royal Rumble winner. So I guess on tonight's Raw, if you win the Royal Rumble, you could take out a tag team single-handedly. That's the lesson we learned tonight on Monday Night Raw. And then we got a $5 super chat here before I get to the next Raw segment. Ken Terminated by Google says, I could see Mysterio, Andrade, Humberto, and MVP in a fatal 4-way elimination match next week. Andrade gets eliminated first. Andrade's not going to be on Raw. When you're suspended, you're off TV. He is benched. He is off TV for the next week. So the question is, will WWE strip him of the title or just let him sit out the 30 days and keep him as champion? I mean, Brock Lesnar never shows up, so that 30-day rule really hasn't applied in a very long time. The game is on 100 with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. He says, so WWE gave Charlotte a bone with the Rumble victory because her father was unhappy, and we all know Charlotte did not need it. Fans are upset over this. I think Charlotte's a great talent. I think she's one of the best WWE has. And she did win the NoDQ.com Female of the Decade award. So I think Charlotte has had a great career. And you could argue she didn't need this win, but she's Charlotte Flair. She's becoming a legend in WWE. She's becoming one of the all-time greats for men or women in the company. So I'm okay with her winning. I think Shayna would have been a better choice for Becky, but we may still get Becky versus Shayna. Maybe it's going to be Charlotte versus Bayley. Maybe it's going to be Charlotte versus Sasha. Who knows? We still have a couple of months until WrestleMania, and things could always change. So let's wait and see what WWE goes with for Mania and see what they do before we jump to conclusions. I do agree with some people when you say sometimes you have to sit back and see how things play out and not rush to judgment on it. All right, so we had the Street Profits in a backstage segment, which was pretty cringy as usual. But apparently because I'm white, I don't know good humor. I just don't like the segments. I think New Day, before they got stale, they've had a lot of funny segments. And I like a lot of R-Truth segments, but Street Profits, not working for me. And then we had Kelly come in, and she's just cringy too. I mean, I was never big on Kelly. I mean, attractive woman and all, but I never found her to be an interesting wrestling character. So she comes in, and I'm pretty much indifferent. She danced around when they were talking about wanting the smoke, and I was just rolling my eyes. I thought this was a waste of time, stupid segment. We had, speaking of stupid segments, we had Mojo Rawley with Riddick Moss, a guy from NXT. I don't know anything about him. This was totally random. Apparently, he's Mojo's insurance policy for the 24/7 championship. We had Mojo make quick work out of No Way Jose, very quick work. And then after the match, R-Truth showed up as a clown. He was one of the people in the conga line. He was dressed as a clown. He rolled up Mojo to pick up the victory to regain the 24/7 hardcore European 7-Eleven Interstate 95 championship. But then the insurance policy, Riddick Moss, got involved, and Mojo Rawley was able to regain the championship to complete indifference from pretty much everyone, I think. Time to retire the 24/7 title, please. It had its run. We had some fun moments, but it's boring now. I'm tired of it. Let's move on. We had Lana one-on-one with Liv Morgan. Rusev and Bobby Lashley were banned from ringside. Pretty short match here. Liv picked up the clean victory over Lana with the flatliner. So, yeah. I mean, it was a match. Not much to say about it. Darren Frazier with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Darren. I appreciate it. He says, this was dumb. Give me Hardy or MVP or anyone else to win this title and make a good story out of it. I'd love to see Matt Hardy win it, and they could do some stuff with the Hardy compound. Like, I don't understand. Like, if you're going to keep the 24/7 title around, why not do some different things? How many times do we have to see the roll-up with R-Truth rolling somebody up, and then somebody rolls him up? He shows up. He runs to the ring. People chase him. Like, can't we do some different things? Think outside the box. Is it the whole point of the 24/7 title to do something different and try something that we haven't seen before? Outside the box. Let's see something different. Go to the Hardy compound. Go somewhere that isn't inside the wrestling ring. Do some different stories. Try something different. Like, it's so boring. They could do so many cool things with the 24/7 title. If you're not going to do anything new, just get rid of it. Oofman Rules with a $2 super chat. He says, you could hear a pin drop when Kelly came out. Well, yeah, the thing is, and thank you for the super chat, the thing is, I felt like this crowd, I mean, they know who Edge is because Edge is an all-time legend, and probably a lot of the younger fans are more familiar with him because he's done the podcast and he's made occasional appearances. But I felt like a lot of the crowd did not know who MVP was. Like, there were some "You Still Got It" chants, but it felt like there were a lot of people that didn't know who he was. And I feel like there was a lack of crowd heat for that match. And Kelly's going to be even worse. Like, I felt like probably the majority of that audience in San Antonio had no idea who she was. And let's see here. Trying to catch up here. Where were we? Okay, so Mo Camera with a $7 super chat. Thank you for that. Mo Camera, who is everyone's favorite Roman Reigns hater. We're going to call him the No DQ, the resident No DQ hater, Mo Camera. He says, Humberto Carrillo, and he spelled it Carto, is a poor man's Sin Cara. Botchy at times, and then he adds, of course, you know it's from Mo Camera when he says this, thank God Roman Reigns did not win the Royal Rumble. He did not win the Royal Rumble, as a matter of fact. He was the runner-up, and I think he's been the runner-up like 5 years, like 2014, and then 17, 18, 19, 20. Like, he's been runner-up, I think, more than anybody else in Royal Rumble history. Mr. Runner-up, Roman Reigns. Next up, we had Eric Rowan come out and win a squash match, and there was nothing to this whatsoever. And I do not give a damn about Eric Rowan now after he got squashed to death by Brock Lesnar. Why should I? And there's probably not even going to be a good payoff for this, whatever's in the cage storyline. And he didn't even mess with it at all. He just beat up the guy, gave him the Iron Claw choke slam, and that was that. We had our main event segment, and I was just wanting Edge to come out. I was done with this show between the Street Profits and the squash matches. I just wanted to see Edge do his thing, and let's go to bed. Do the review and go to bed. Edge came out. Big pop for him, of course. The welcome back chants. He talked about how the fans have no idea how much the reaction means to him. They chanted, "You still got it." And he's like, damn right I do. He brought up how 9 years ago he was medically disqualified for good by doctors, being deemed no longer able to compete. However, after several years had passed, he started feeling better and he decided to get a second neck surgery. He started busting his ass and got back in shape, best shape of his life at 46 years of age, and decided he wanted to come back and end his career on his terms. Hell of a promo from Edge, by the way. Great stuff here. And he's just, like Daniel Bryan, such a very likable personality. Ken terminated by Google with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Ken. He says, Mo Camera versus Virtue and No DQ's version of WrestleMania. Book it. How about Mo Camera versus Virtue on the No DQ debate? We haven't done a great No DQ debate in a while. If Mo Camera wants to come on, I say let's do it. I'm sure Virtue would be up for the challenge. We could debate Roman Reigns. Somebody who despises Roman Reigns, I'm sure Virtue would be happy to counter all the points. So, Mo Camera, if you want to do it, let me know. We'll set it up. Face Virtue in the great debate. Tony H with a $2 super chat says, Randy Orton showed that he's still a badass tonight. So yes, let's get to Randy Orton, and thank you for the super chat, Tony H. Edge said that at the Royal Rumble, he got to see some familiar faces, and he said hopefully he'll see them again down the road. He said that this comeback might not last long, but he has grit. And that's when Randy Orton came out. He gave Edge a hug, and everybody in the room I was watching this with were all like, this is not going to end well for Edge. This is going to end very bad. Orton gave him a hug, and he talked about how he used to have a self-destructive personality, and when he dug himself into a deep hole, it was Edge that helped him get out of that hole. And Orton talked about how their chemistry at the Royal Rumble was something special, and he asked Edge the question, what if Rated RKO got back together one more time? Edge thought about it for a little bit, but then before he could answer the question, Randy Orton changed the questions. He gave Edge the RKO out of nowhere. Once again, going heel. Pretty short babyface run for Randy Orton. Darren Frazier with a $2 super chat says, all heels in WWE and NXT and AEW should take notes. Well, Randy Orton, he got us good, because I was wanting to see Rated RKO. And I think a lot of the fans were too. Like when Orton brought that up, like the fans were all excited. They were jumping up and down. This reminded me, you know what this promo reminded me of? I mean, if you want to take notes from somebody, Randy Orton, I'm sure, learned from one of the masters, and that guy is Triple H. Because this reminded me of 2002 when Shawn Michaels and Triple H came out and they were teasing a DX reunion. This was 2002, right before SummerSlam. And then Triple H did the whole Michael Buffer intro, but then before he could finish it, he kicked Shawn in the gut and gave him the pedigree. I felt like this was a very similar segment here. And kind of, I think, similar to that match, too, where Shawn was, coming off of those injuries, with the broken back and all that stuff. So they were playing up on that. And same thing here. I think they're going to be playing up on Edge's injuries. And very similar type of storyline here. So Randy Orton beat up Edge with the steel chair. And then he teased like he was going to put the chair around Edge's neck, and then acted like he was going to step on his neck, but then decided to do something else. He grabbed the chair, he grabbed the second chair, and then he proceeded to give Edge the concerto. Steel chair shot to the head, and that was the end of Monday Night Raw. And guess what? Looks like we got ourselves a WrestleMania match. I would prefer to see Edge against somebody new, but if this is a first match for Edge, I think it's good for him to be in there with somebody he knows is going to work a very safe style. So it makes sense. And they do have the history together. So I'm fine with it. And I thought that this was a really well done angle with these guys to set up a WrestleMania match. Ken, terminated by Google with a $2 super chat, says, is this payback after Edge eliminated Randy Orton at the Royal Rumble? Well, there you go. It's a very easy setup here because Edge did, in fact, eliminate Orton from the Royal Rumble, costing him his opportunity to main event WrestleMania. So Randy Orton's going to want revenge. He's a vengeful person. So made sense in the storyline for Orton to come out and take him out because Edge took him out at the Royal Rumble. And Keith Johnson with a $2 super chat says, writing MVP off, and then he says Street Profits are good athletes. I feel like WWE's probably not going to use MVP again. I think that this was just, he's in town, we'll use him for a match, but I feel like this was a little short return for MVP. And as far as Street Profits go, I agree. They're really good in the ring, but their comedy has been bad more times than good, in my opinion. I just don't find them to be very funny. And then there's a $2 super chat from Rambling Movie Takes. And thank you guys for the super chats. He says, hey, Aaron, hook up that debate between Virtue and I. All right, Rambling Movie Takes. We will get it done soon. If anybody wants to debate Virtue on a topic, hit me up, nodqmisc@gmail.com, and we will make it happen. Let's go ahead and do the letter grade for this week's Raw. I thought the beginning was really strong with Drew and Brock setting up WrestleMania, and the closing segment I thought was great. However, I felt like there was a lot of filler on this Raw, and especially the 45 minutes to an hour before Edge came out. Throw it in the trash. Give it to TJS and have him flush it down the toilet. I'm going to give Raw a B- because there were some strong points to balance the weak points, and there were some memorable segments on this show. So I think B- is a fair grade for Raw. Cindy gives Raw a B-. Curtis Butler with a C. Chasepin 401 with a B-. Harley with a B-. People's WWE Channel with a B+. Kayfabe Candy Ass, not quite as generous, says C- and only because the closing segment was an A. Otherwise, this show would have gotten an F from Kayfabe Candy Ass. Michael Wayne with a C+, and The Game Is On 100 with a C+, CC Drink with a C+, and Nelson with a B-. Oofman Rules with a C+ also. So a lot of B-, C+ for Raw. Mixed bag, it seems. Calvin Bowman with an A+. Interesting. So Calvin Bowman must think that this Raw was one of the best Raws of all time. I'm curious to know what Calvin Bowman thinks is a bad Raw. Just curious, Calvin. Let me know what you thought was an F Raw. I just want to know. I'm just morbid curiosity. And Ken terminated by Google with a $5 super chat says, Rift, you might disagree with me, but I find Private Party AEW to be better than the Profits in many ways. What do you think? I think that they are similar, but I think that Private Party is good because they don't do the stupid comedy. You know, they just come out there and do their thing in the ring, which is what they're excelling at. Street Profits, I think they got to change it up with the comedy. They got to try something different because what they're doing, to me, is not working. So have them come out and do what they do best, wrestle, and maybe try something different with a promo. Try something outside the box from what they're doing. I don't know. Try improv comedy and do what Dolph Ziggler did. Try to come up with something different and get some feedback from other people. I just think what they're doing isn't working. But that's my opinion. However, I know I'm not the only one. I know Solid Monster agrees, and I know a lot of other people agree as well. But there are the people that say that I'm crazy for thinking that they're unfunny. But hey, it's subjective. We all have our different tastes. I just don't think they're funny, personally. I think the humor comes off as very forced. Mo Cameron with a $2.79 super chat says, why is The Fiend so limited in the ring with 2 moves? I think part of the idea is to have a mystique to The Fiend and not have him do too many things, keep it simple with him and just, kind of have him like that old school Undertaker personality. The old Undertaker didn't really do a lot. He didn't do a lot of flashy moves. He was very methodical, and I think that's the design with The Fiend also. You want it to be more about the character. You don't want him doing a million moves. That's not what The Fiend's about. The Fiend's strength is the character. Again, like I said, play to the strengths. Fiend is a strong character, so focus on the character. Ken terminated by Google with a $2 super chat says, please invite Solid Monster to the review show. He's welcomed on anytime. He can be on anytime he would like, and we would love to have him on trivia. We invited him on trivia. He never took it up. So you guys, again, you'd have to hit him up and request him to be on a No DQ event, whether it's a No DQ review or trivia. Got to let him know that there's a demand for it. All right, guys, I will go ahead and wrap up this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and watching the video. If you enjoy the video, please spread the word. Tell a friend on social media. Call up a friend. Send your friend a fax. Send your friend a smoke screen. Whatever you got to do, just please spread the word and get more people tuning in. I very much appreciate it. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com. Really busy news day. A lot going on. As I mentioned, Andrade suspended. Head over to NoDQ.com for the latest updates. Follow me on social media at NoDQDOTCOM. And I will see you guys next time.